counts down 3 different winners. First, it was Jason Raines who opened the year with a commanding win in Florida. Then it's Team Suzuki Steve Hatch from a DNF in the Sunshine State to an easy win in Georgia. And at the last round, 2001 champion Rodney Smith just ran away from the field at Steel Creek. Now we head to the Big Buck GNCC from South Carolina next. From Cross Anchor, South Carolina, welcome to round number 4 of the GNCC Motorcycle Series presented by Suzuki. Dave Reef along with 5-time series champ, 3-time Big Buck winner, Scott Summers, ready to find out what Rodney Smith and the rest of the guys have to do here today besides 312 gauge, right? Yeah, there's some huge deer out there in the woods. I'm sure the deer hunters will get real excited about seeing that. Today we're talking all about the racing. Rodney Smith, the round 3 winner, Mike Lafferty, 2nd in points, and this is Fred Andrews, 3rd in points, kind of starting from that usual position. Yeah, Fred generally rides himself into shape and does better and better as the year progresses. Speaking of progressing, everybody's going to have to chase down this man, Jason Raines, the series points leader. Store today?
I can't really explain it, like everything fades away. You know, I forget about everything, and all the work that I've done for the past 2 weeks is about to come out. You know, I'm trying to just put everything, you know, everything behind me and to focus on what's ahead.
Whole shot, really, to get up front, and if I'm not up front, I'm going to charge to the front. You know, what's going through my mind is, you know, everyone's nervous, you got the jitters, you know, but heck, I think I got less because I got electric button.
I just watch him for any move that he makes, any flinch, anything he does. I really, I don't check anything. Hopefully I've already checked it all before that it comes up that quick, but as soon as he says 10 seconds, I'm just concentrating on him moving that flag.
Well, you can't tell the players without a program, so here's the names and numbers and how they'll line up in Pro Bike Clash. Jason Raines, of course, the points leader. Mike Lafferty and Fred Andrews, Rodney Smith, Brian Garahan on the KTM.
Mike KIEDROWSKI is also following Brian, then Robbie JENKS, Randy HAWKINS, Steve Hatch, and then Barry Hawk.
All eyes will be focused on that Suzuki, see if he can come back from that DNF like his teammate did just 1 week ago. 10-second boards up, we're about ready to go. Scott, what's the key to getting a good start?
Well, you have to have really quick reflexes, number 1. Just the perfect amount of throttle. Too much, you get wheel spin, and maybe loop the bike out. Not enough, you won't go fast enough to beat everybody else in the first turn.
Saw KIEDROWSKI on that Suzuki falling back right away. As your whole shot artist is number 13, Mr. Hawkins. It's Cole to you and me, right?
Yeah, Cole is, I think, Kawasaki's hope for the future of a championship from Kawasaki. You know, Fred Andrews won this series years ago, but it was on a Yamaha. Nobody has ever won a GNCC championship on a Kawasaki.
We've seen a lot of the interesting lines already. Should we take a look at the track map?
Yeah, this course kind of weaves in and out of trees. You know, it's a good idea to really watch what's coming up at you. There's a lot of tree roots, a lot of rocks. It's very technical terrain. And then every now and then it'll open up and you'll go across a big grassy field where you can find out just how fast your bike will go. You know, those guys are probably getting close to 60 miles an hour across this field.
And already we've had a change for the lead. Hawkins way off the pace back in 5th. Mike Lafferty has taken the lead, being joined by Robbie JENKS. Rodney Smith currently in 3rd, but not within eye shot of the top 2 right now.
Yeah, Rodney's really not concerned about where he's at as far as the rest of the riders go right now. There's plenty of the race left.
Mark Hyde chasing down Fred Andrews as we catch back up with Rodney Smith making his way through a little goalies. There's Raines right behind him.
Rodney got a little bit out of shape there. You saw his leg come out. It's funny, you can use your leg as kind of a counterbalancer. When the bike starts leaning in the direction you don't want it to go, you throw your leg out, and that helps you get back going the right direction.
Good crowd on hand today as well, watching him cross one of those goalies. They talk about the tricky goalies at Big Buck here.
Yeah, this is something that a supercross rider would describe as, you know, you either do it or you don't. You come in there and you kind of have to go for it because there's no backing out when you get to a certain point.
Basically, those are erosion ditches built years ago from old farming practices. There you see some more riders going up and over the top of one of those ditches.
These guys are saving a lot of time by doing this. If they had to go out and around it, you're probably looking at 15 or 20 seconds.
Barry Hawk riding in 6th. As we get out onto that grassy field with your race leader, Mike Lafferty, who's kind of pulled away from 2nd place now.
Yeah, Mike's a really good technical rider. You don't get to be a national enduro champion without having a lot of speed, and he's showing us that speed right here.
Still searching for that first ever win. How tricky are those goalie jumps? That tricky. Ouch. Those sting just a little bit.
He cleared it, but the front end compressed, bottomed, and that's exactly what you don't want to do. At least he's up.
Well, battle for 6. Hawkins trying to hold on to that spot, but here comes the MX kid on the outside.
Yeah, Mike kind of shines in the open grass track sections. You know, it probably reminds him of the old motocross days, something he was really good at.
Seen a couple different lines already throughout this race. How do you pick your lines?
Well, you have to kind of just be careful and conservative in the first couple of hours. Everybody's still kind of learning the track. The time to really pour it on is in that last hour, because that's when you've memorized what's around every corner.
Lafferty, Jenks, and Smith, your top 3. Back to cross anchor in a moment. The Big Buck GNCC from Cross Anchor, South Carolina is being brought to you by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. And by MSR Off-Road Riding Apparel, innovative off-road riding apparel for riders with a single-track mind since 1971. Welcome back to Cross Anchor. Here's Mike Lafferty completing lap number 1 across the checkpoint. He is your race leader with a few seconds to spare right now.
You know, Mike's been riding GNCCs, I believe, since 1997, so this has got to feel really good to kind of go out and be in charge of this race right now.
Meanwhile, Fred Andrews, not to pick on him, but this is exactly what has been the story with him, back in 9th in the early part of this race.
Yeah, Fred knows how to go fast. He's just kind of got to get it together and be consistent, be careful, not make any mistakes.
Team Suzuki, Rodney Smith coming through the checkpoint.
You know, Rodney won this race last year, and he won the championship last year. So we'll see what he's got up his sleeve for today.
Trying to chase down the points leader, Jason Raines. Well, it was in Morganton, North Carolina, where Rodney Smith was able to cover the field at the Steel Creek GNCC, taking the lead just 2 turns into the race. Never touched all day and went on to take his first win of 2002.
It just seemed like everything was going my way, and I was racing the track, and it was good and technical, and I got a little bit of a cushion, and nobody really seemed to want to catch me last week. But you know, I'm just going to put my head down and go after a good start again this week, and I've been riding real well. My Suzuki's working good, and you know, hopefully I can get out front and do that again. I mean, that's what the red is doing.
Smith knows that all the tracks across the GNCC series are different. So what does he think the track today will have to offer?
This track's a lot similar. I don't think it gets quite as technical rough part, but it's got a lot of tree roots, and it's pretty tight and a lot of trees. And you know, I won here a year ago, and I like this track. It's got a little bit of everything. It's a little bit dry today, but the traction's real good in the trees. It's just dry out in the open, and they got a couple of good technical mud holes and stuff out there. I think, you know what, I think it's actually going to be a real good race today.
But to go along with that win, there's 1 DNF. There's only 3 races down and 10 more to go. Rodney still feels he can be a factor in the title hunt.
I'm only 19 points out of the lead, and you know what, it's still early. We're only 3 races into it, and I actually already DNF'd 1, so that's out of the way. So I'm surprised I'm sitting as good as I am after 2 scores only out of 3.
Can you have a DNF and win this series, Scott?
Well, you can, but it's not easy. There's a 5-point bonus every time you win a race over the second place rider. So it really depends on what everybody else does, and you really need to be perfect.
No, needless to say, no more mistakes can be made, as Fred Andrews still got a lot of ground to cover, hanging out back there in 9th. Mike Lafferty, though, out on a little Sunday drive, kind of stretching his feet a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Rodney Smith, and he said, you know, when I'm winning, everything seems to be easy. And when I'm not, I train harder, and it seems like I don't really get where I want to be. So it's got to feel good for Lafferty being out in front.
Veteran of the series, there are very different riding styles between each of the riders.
Yeah, you know, some guys are really good at making corners where there's no berm, you know, seeming to find traction where there's none available. Other guys kind of need a berm to be able to change direction. Some guys use like a brake sliding technique, keeping the bike very vertical. Other guys really lean the bike, like some of the European riders we've seen recently, Paul Edmondson and Shane Watts. Very good at finding traction where there doesn't seem to be any to offer.
Watts still on the sidelines as you take a look at the battle for first on one of the nice uphill portions of this track.
You can see these trees. The more you try to lead your motorcycle, the more apt you are to hit your handlebars on a tree.
It's Cole Hawkins who got the whole shot. He's faded back even further now. Mike KIEDROWSKI has moved into 6th place from his dismal start.
The key is carrying a lot of speed.
Whereas Mark Hyde with the helmet cam, he's right there, chasing down Barry Hawk on the 6 through the tree section. Man, some of those look tight.
Yeah, the trees are very solid objects, and you have to be really careful to avoid them.
Probably got to be careful to avoid the crowd. Look at all those people. It's got to give you some encouragement riding past them.
Yeah, the crowd gets into it, they scream and yell, and that really motivates you to really go to work on the motorcycle.
Well, what's got to be encouraging to Mike Lafferty is the lead he has opened up after just 2 laps. Back in a moment. Today's Grand National Cross Country Series racing event is being brought to you by MSR, innovative off-road riding apparel for riders with a single-track mind since 1971. Dave Reed, Scott Summers back with you in South Carolina, and that is Jason Raines making his way through the checkpoint, still hanging out about 4th, though.
Yeah, Jason's keeping his cool, trying not to make any mistakes, and try to make some progress.
Being hounded still by Robbie JENKS on the 8. JENKS never been this far up by the race's end either.
Yeah, Robbie's got to be excited. He spent a lot of time riding with GNCC veteran and champion Scott Plessinger from Ohio. So I think together they've really got Robbie's speed up close to where it needs to be.
You see the Suzuki's coming through 5th and 6th. Rodney Smith, meanwhile, battling his way through the trees. Getting tied up front for Lafferty.
It looks like it's getting pretty choppy out there too. You kind of get braking bumps and acceleration bumps. It's kind of hard to get a feel for on the camera.
Mike Lafferty going slow a little bit through there.
Yeah, what he's showing is some intelligence there. He realizes there's something there that he can stick his motorcycle in and not get it out for the rest of the day. So he's taking a few extra seconds and making sure he does the right thing.
Saw how tough that section was too. Helmet cam couldn't even keep up with the top 2. Meanwhile, Barry Hawk riding all alone in 4th. We go back to the battle for 1st. Lapper in the way of Lafferty, gets by him rather easily, and now JENKS is by. Looks like they're being joined by Jason Raines.
You have to be careful when you go around those lappers. You know, you have to almost anticipate what they're going to do. Sometimes you may already be committed to passing him on the right. If he moves over to the right, that could get you both in a lot of trouble quick.
Well, that's not what Rodney Smith wanted to see, as Jason Raines move into that number 3 spot. Probably not what Barry Hawk wanted to see either.
Mike Kiedrowski following right behind Rodney Smith. And then Fred Andrews.
Andrews making his way up a couple of positions, so he is definitely on the gas moving forward.
And Mike Kiedrowski told me that he struggles a little bit with the really technical parts of these races. You know, there's no rocks or roots on motocross tracks, and that's what he was very, very good at.
First set of pit stops, your top 2 come in. Lafferty with a new set of goggles. Jason Raines, your 3rd place rider, also in. That's Darrell Raines pumping the gas in. The top 3 right away in the same position they came in. There's Lafferty. There was JENKS. Hawk now in.
He's getting fresh goggles while he gets gas. That's critical. You have to be able to see to ride the speeds these guys ride.
Open season on pit stops. Everybody making their way in here. Getting topped off and ready to go out and ride for about another hour.
Yeah, you know, these guys race really hard for 3 hours, and the only break they get is that 5, 6, 7 seconds while they're getting fuel in their bike.
That's what I was going to ask you next, is how much are you 100%?
Well, I think everybody realizes that they can't physically go all out for 3 hours. So they have to reserve just a little bit of energy, which means they have to ride at maybe 9/10, because at 10/10 they just wouldn't physically last.
Barry Hawk has moved into 4th place, so he's moving up. Fred Andrews has also moved up a position into 6th. Looks like riders now starting to press a little bit more. Lafferty continues to lead, but Jason Raines has moved into 2nd. There he is, past Robbie JENKS.
Yeah, and it's a little bit easier to follow than it is to lead. So Jason's kind of just keying off of Mike. Maybe missing some of the bumps that Mike's hitting.
Good battle for 4th going on too. There's Hawk on the number 6 machine right behind him. A little different lineup through the trees. It's the MX Kid, Mike Kiedrowski on the 12th.
See see Fred Andrews coming up the hill. Looks like he starts to lose control, has to kind of go off the course to keep from falling down, but he made it up the hill.
On board once again with Mark Hyde, chasing Rodney Smith, who's fallen back to 7th place. He's dropped a position, and now he's dropped his bike.
Yeah, I think he hit one of those tree roots and lost the front end. Evidently, he's crushed his pipe, and that's affecting how the motorcycle runs. You know, he's riding the 250, and it probably feels like about a 100 right now.
Let's see if he can get it started. Sounds a little bit more muffled than we're used to, but he's down and away. Didn't give up a position. That's the good news for Rodney Smith. The bad news is he gave up a tremendous amount of time. There's the top 5. Lafferty, Range, Jenks, Hawkins, KIEDROWSKI. We've got just a couple laps to go. The Big Buck GNCC race is being brought to you today by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. Visit your Suzuki dealer and see the complete award-winning lineup today. Back in Cross Anchor, South Carolina for the final time, where Mike Lafferty continues to lead Jason Raines by 8 seconds and the 8th machine of Robbie Jenks by 12 seconds. And there's a look at the gap.
You know, Lafferty's right where he wants to be because nobody can see him, so they can't key off of him anymore.
Nobody can key off Fred Andrews either. He's riding right now in 5th, coming through a checkpoint. Scott, do you ever find that checkpoint maybe disturbs a little bit of your move at all?
Well, you have to just get in and get back out as soon as you can. That's the most important thing. Some of the guys have had problems with going a little bit too fast, and I think they had to penalize some riders recently for rolling through instead of coming to a complete stop. It's hard to do.
That gives you an idea right there how hard it is to key on the guy in front of you when you're riding through stuff that tight, too.
Yeah, you know.
Look out.
You have to have really good vision. You have to have really good reflexes because there's stuff coming up at you really quick.
So much for the roots and gullies. How about trees in your way? Jason Raines still riding in 2nd. About all I can see is the dustier leader right now.
And there's Barry Hawk. He must have hit must be a log in that mud. The rear end caught it and flipped him around, and he's not having the best of days.
So far, nobody got by. Well, there, somebody did.
And at this point, the guys are getting tired, so it's very easy to fall down. They've spent a lot of energy getting to where they are now.
Hawk is up and away. 2 worse for the wear. Unlike this guy, Rodney Smith, the defending champ, coming in. That dented pipe, you can see it right there.
Rodney's kicking at it. It must have come out of the cylinder, which really makes the bike lose power.
Tough way for him to end this race. Mike Lafferty continues to come up on some lap riders. Like to get around them guys really quick. So Robbie Jenks, Jason Raines, guys who's in 3rd and 2nd place respectively, don't have a chance to catch up to him and get a look at his lines.
These guys look like they're going really fast. It's important that you get into a rhythm and you carry as much speed through the corners as you can, because when you slow down and speed up and you keep doing that, that's what wears you out.
KIEDROWSKI on the hammer, trying to improve his 4th place position as the laps are winding down. Fred Andrews up to 5th, like we've seen him all year long, charging from the back. Looks like he might run out of real estate today, though. Podium finish going to be pretty tough, as Lafferty might be on his way to that first GNCC win.
Yeah, he's got to be excited. He's probably also nervous, just afraid of what might happen between where he is now and that checkered flag.
And like we said 2 weeks ago in Macon, Georgia, he was almost on his way, about 2 turns from the end before he got past us. Jason Raines has fallen back to 3rd. Not sure what happened to the point leader, but Robbie Jenks has gotten around Raines, and now he trails only Lafferty, but Lafferty still looks like he has a pretty wide cushion. Looks like he has an extremely wide cushion.
Yeah, talking to Jason earlier in the year, you know, it's almost like a psychological block there. When you're out there in front and you're not used to that being the case, you start getting nervous and you start making mistakes just because you don't know what to do.
Starting to look like this one's going to end with a couple of firsts, and there it is. Lafferty completes the deal, wins the race, his first ever GNCC victory. And right behind him, here comes Robbie Jenks, who will take home the 2nd place, his first podium finish of the year. Scott, do you remember what it was like to win for the first time? You got more than 60 of those things.
Well, there's just a huge pressure that's relieved as soon as you get your first win.
Lafferty, Jenks, Rains on the podium. KIEDROWSKI, Fred Andrews, 4th and 5th. As you look at results 6 through 10, how about it one more time for Mike Lafferty, though? Completing the deal, getting his first GNCC win. You think he's happy? I think so.
My kick 10 400 worked awesome. Everyone's been working so good for me. Alan, Melissa, all my sponsors. It's so good to have you know, something like this be rewarded. You know, we work so hard for it and stuff. So I'm just ecstatic. I can't believe it. You know, it's awesome. It feels good. I'm just taking one race at a time. I'm happy to get this out of the way. You know, it's been a monkey on my back for a long time now. So I'm just happy to get this over with.
4 races, 4 different winners, and as you can imagine, the points jumble around a little bit. Take a look at the jump Lafferty just made.
Yeah, because Rains finished back a little bit, Mike jumped up quite a bit in points, so that helps him quite a bit.
He gained 9 as you take a look at the rest of the top 10. How about second place? Great race.
We got a really good start. Couldn't stay with Mike Lafferty all day. Came in the gas, had a really quick pit stop, go back out. Made one mistake, and Jason Rains got around me, but you know, luckily I put my head down and kept pushing. And on the last lap, he made a mistake on mud hole, and I got around him. And I thought to myself, you know, I better floor it, get away from him, try to catch Mike. You know, I didn't catch right up to Mike, but I wasn't too far, and you know, I got away from Jason. So yeah, I'm very happy. You know, it didn't even seem like we was going that fast. Like I said, myself and Mike Lafferty, we got hooked up together, and it was like we was on a trail ride. You know, we were kind of hollering at each other, you know, having a good time, and we forgot about the racing part and just had fun, and it turned out good. You know, we got away from everybody. You know, then Jason caught up, and you know, luckily we was far enough ahead that us 3 could play around, and the last lap we started racing.
Jason Rains did not win today, but takes yet another podium and starts to show some signs of maturity as he tries to protect a points lead by finishing 3rd today.
It was hard riding between 2 guys, especially when there was lappers. The lappers, you see the dust, and then they get by, let 2 guys by, and then jump right back in. So I'm really happy with how everything good. That's 2 podiums in a row for me, so that's a first for me, and I really would have loved to win today, but these 2 guys over here, they deserve a lot of credit. They rode really good. Jeff Russell and the Racer Productions crew have done a wonderful job here this weekend, and I want to thank them for laying out a great course for us this weekend.
Jason's done a really good job. You know, he's being smart. He's realizing he doesn't have to win every race. He just has to be consistent. He's done some winning, and the opportunity didn't present itself today, so he settled for 3rd.
And for Mike Lafferty, a big monkey off of his back.
Yeah, he's the reason that no opportunities presented themselves. Mike had a great race, and he's got to feel like a lot of pressure has been lifted off of him.
Rains will lead the points as we go to our next race coming up in 1 week's time here on Outdoor Life Network, when we head to Loretta Lynn's in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. And that one always seems to draw lots of competitors.
Loretta Lynn's is not only a GNCC, but it's also a round of the National Hare Scramble Series, so they have a huge number of participants.
It's off the beaten path, but it's definitely worth the trip. So for Scott Summers, I'm Dave Reef. We're heading north to Hurricane Mills, and we'll see you in 1 week.